Okay, so welcome to Dose of Truth Tarot. Woo! I feel like we need party poppers. I'm Eloise Ansell. I am your guide, I guess, to support Terry-Ann throughout this year and support all of you. But Terry-Ann, do you want to introduce yourself? Because, some people might know you, some people might not. Do you want to tell us a little bit about you and why we're doing this?
Oh boy, what a nice question, right? Why are we doing this? Well, my interest in the tarot stems from 1971. That's a long time ago. A little kid started to get interested, and I continued my interest, but it kind of shifted a little bit as I went into channeling because I was able to predict the future according to my mom. When I was 3 years old, she says, is the earliest prediction I made. And, as I got older, I wanted to understand not only predictions, but understand what was going on, understand why I was seeing things, and other people I thought were lying about it. I thought my perceptions were like everyone else's, that we could all see these things, and then realizing we couldn't. So an interesting thing happened when I started doing very deep channeling in my 20s. I went through a very deep meditation, going so deep that I went into convulsions. I broke a tooth. It was quite difficult. So I went to a teacher or someone who was very involved in channeling, and he said that I had to stop because of my sensitivity level, that I get too far. And there's a lot of good stories. We can talk about that another time, maybe during our Q&As. But that drove me back to really looking at the tarot as something that could help me access the collective without having such a strain on my nervous system. And from there, it became even more fascinating in so many different ways, because the first thing we want to do when we look at tarot is to predict the future. And then, of course, the difficulty is, can you predict the future? Right? If you look at the minor arcana in tarot, they're linear. They're talking about our daily activities, like how many times you had lunch, what you ate, how many times you went to the bathroom, how many hours you slept. You might not be able to see all of that, but it's in there. These exciting big deals like getting a new job and promotions and getting married and having kids, they aren't daily occurrences in our lives. So when all that will occur, when we're looking at vertical time, and this is how I mostly see my readings, I see them in 3 dimensions, which is one of my goals when I work with people, is to help them see the vertical time, not just linear time. Because once you see vertical, you know exactly where this person is coming from. And knowing where they're coming from, you can figure out the probability. So let's say someone wants a partnership, but they haven't been in a relationship for 20 years. They're pretty much kind of configured in a way that they're single, they're living on their own. What would need to shift for them to actually invite someone into their lives? That's what I'm interested in looking at. So it became more and more fascinating for me to look and see, because we can't actually predict the future, yet we can. So we're going to talk a lot about paradox, because I will contradict myself all the time. Yes, we can predict the future. No, we can't. I can't tell you how many times I've predicted the future, and I can't tell you how many times I would look at the cards and go, there's no prediction. I'll give them a percentage, but there's no prediction. So this was absolutely beneficial for me, not only physically, not only emotionally, but also mentally. It was really a way for me to understand better all of the bodies and how we function, like the intellect function, etc. So I did study psychology in school, and it just didn't meet the sort of energy I was coming up with at that time in my life. I really wanted to work with beliefs, and I wanted to work with why are we so rigid in different ideas. So tarot was one of the ways I could explore that. I found many other ways. I obviously have a tarot practice along with my I'm a body talk practitioner as well, and I'm a breakthrough instructor. So I do all of these things, but they're very much interconnected in many, many ways. So that was my dynamic. And I've been doing this professionally since 1995, but reading tarot since 1971. That's a long time ago. Really long time ago. And of course, naturally predicting the probability of what someone would do from the time I was 3. So that's 1963. That's one thing that I would like to share with all of you and help you understand. You're predicting probabilities based on where this person is coming from. Right? So the let's say the probability that if you haven't eaten for a day that you're going to have breakfast the next morning is going to be a higher probability than if you've eaten too much the night before, and whether you're going to have breakfast in the morning, you might just forego the breakfast. So there's less of a probability. That's what we want to look at, not the certitude of what's going to occur, because it doesn't always come. And also you might need to be psychic to be able to predict those things. So here we're learning how to tune into the collective, see what's going on via the tarot, and be able to come up with those probabilities. So if you're not psychic at all, you're going to be able to access, those probabilities. And it's fun. And I can tell you over the years of teaching people, I started teaching as well in 1996, I think it was. And I just could see students getting it pretty quick. They were doing pretty quick, working pretty quickly. The wonderful thing for us is we can work for a year, because you can get something working quickly, which I'm going to give you a lot of different ways to do that as soon as possible. But going into a deeper study will allow you to understand a lot more and get a lot more probability. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I took Terry-Ann's tarot course back in 2008, I think it was. And I ended up, we just did like a 2-day course over a weekend, and I ended up being paid to read tarot a couple of weeks later or a couple of months later. And I was like, and I wasn't charging much because I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. And people were giving me more money because I was so accurate. And I'm like, oh, I did learn something on that course. So you can learn really quickly, but it's the in-depth that we can go through a whole year together and really integrate the knowledge and deepen it. I think it's going to be beautiful.
Yeah, well, it's like almost like beginner's luck, right? That you start to read. I notice people are like, they're so excited and they start to read, but when they weren't coming to study groups, they would call me up and say, I don't get this and I don't get that. And I said, well, time for the study groups. You need to deepen your awareness that you got one level, that's fine, and it's great, but you want to keep deepening to be able to really, these cards, think of this artist and what they drew, what they're tuning into, and how deep we could go into just that single card. Now, as I said, that's not what the cards I would like you to start with, but you will have a lot of imagery that's evoking more and more understanding within you. And of course, you attract a lot more people who are interested in hearing what you have to say. Because there is this other aspect that if you speak generally, people usually agree. Right? If you take all of they've done this experiment where they look at astrology, and they switch the signs around and give it to the person. So Gemini is now Capricorn, and they give it to a Capricorn. They say, that's me. So, we don't want to be just reading generally and kind of extracting from the person, oh yeah, that's me. You really want to get down into what are these archetypes telling me about this person. And it'll depend on your focus. My personal focus is supporting someone to make changes in their lives, to support them to get to the change. Because what if you predict whatever this person asks, every prediction is no, 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 no. Well, that's pretty depressing for the person to walk off with, right? So instead of doing that, we're looking at, well, it looks like the path you're on right now it's no. So let's go in and seek where are the little difficulties that you're having that you can shift so you can get to where you'd like to go. And of course, even more difficult is reading for oneself. So you're going to, through this course, be doing quite a bit of reading for yourself so that you can train your mind not to be looking at your desires, but really reading the cards, really reading what's there, not what you want to be there. So I've seen many people put out a very horrible spread. It's got tower falling, it's got ruin, it's got catastrophe. And the question would be, will I have a relationship with this man? And it says ruin, catastrophe, tower. And they'll say, my intuition says yes. So there's something, awry going on within that individual. They're so hopeful they want it to come, but they're just saying, this is what I want, not really reading that. There's a lot in that reading if we put those three cards, which I'm not going to explain now, but it's obvious this is going to be torn asunder. It's not going to work. So this is what we will be doing. We'll slowly layer your understanding over the year. We're going to go through everything so that you could read your deck and be able to expand and read other decks. This isn't really a study of each symbol within the cards. We are going to evoke from you the meaning of that card because you are connected to the collective. So you know what they mean. We just need to get that out of you. So there'll be a lot of exercises to do that. So I know it's supposed to be talking about me, but that is me, is doing all of that. That's what I do, what I love to do. Cool. I think Eloise could contest that, getting me to sit down and focus on one thing, Terry-Ann, get this done. And the moment I start to go do that particular task, I end up seeing something, and now I'm reading more and more studies of, psychology or tarot, and then I go back and I think, oh, Eloise told me to do this, and I haven't done it.
I'm here to anchor her.
She's here to anchor me because I can go off really, really far. So at least you get to know me. I'll go off. So even in class, when you ask your questions, those are going to anchor the answers. Because this is a forever study. I think I've been studying since 1971, and I continue to do so. So it's rather beautiful. It really, I'm going to tear up. It really changes your life. I find the more I understand the archetypes, the better my life is.
Beautiful.
It's better. Yeah. Namaste.
Yay.
Thank you all.
So we're going to go through a whole year of deep diving into the tarot, self-development, self-exploration. We're going to have, every month we're going to have some Q&A time. We're going to have some lessons just to kind of cover different aspects of the cards. And, we're going to have community, you can ask questions. We really want to hold your hand on this journey, as Terry-Ann said, to kind of deepen that connection. And it's going to be a glorious, glorious year. I'm excited.
Me too. Very excited to be doing this online. I do it all the time in person. But obviously with the conditions now, we can't do that as much. So this is going to be beautiful to get this out there.
Yay. Cool. Let's get started.
Let's get started. Thank you, Louise. As always, thank you.
Thank you.